Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. I thought this was one of the more interesting aspects of the fallout from Tuesday's election. The impact on the leftist podcasting world, a world that Kamala leaned on to try to get to the kids, get them all excited about her candidacy, and it just wasn't quite enough. David Pakman is one of these said podcasters, and this is what he has to say about the teeming masses of subscribers that are now ghosting podcasts like his.
It is not just YouTube subscribers. We are seeing record cancellations of paid memberships. Record cancellations. These are the people that keep the show running. Now, for a moment, I thought, if it's just YouTube, maybe YouTube is purging people who are inactive subscribers. And once a year, usually YouTube does this, and you see a little decline, and then numbers go back up. They're not doing it. They're not doing it. And if that were the case, we wouldn't be seeing paid membership cancellations on the website. So now I understand what is going on. It's terrifying, but it is happening. A lot of people are checking out. I heard anecdotally from a couple dozen people who said, David, I just can't do it anymore. I just can't do it. I'm checking out. I'm out. And the reason that this is terrifying, not only because it puts everybody in left-wing media's livelihoods at stake and at risk, it terrifies me because our instinct is the opposite of what the right does, and we will get crushed if this is the way we respond to a defeat.
A little lesson in market economics. It turns out when you're peddling manure-smelling air freshener, at some point when people actually take a good, strong whiff, they say, boy, this doesn't smell that great after all. So they were peddling the existential threat and the optimism of a new generation of Marxist leadership, and then it didn't happen, and all of a sudden people don't want to pay for the doom and gloom, the cause that wasn't anymore. Oh, it's perfectly tragic. It's also a lesson that can't go saving the world if you can't pay the rent, as the saying goes. For more on matters economic, pleased to be joined by John Tamny, editor of RealClearMarkets.com, former director of the Center for Economic Freedom at FreedomWorks, author of The Money Confusion, How Illiteracy About Currencies and Inflation Sets the Stage for the Crypto Revolution. Talk a little bit about that, too. John, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You don't need to read Henry Hazlitt when you can just live lesson in Econ 101, huh? Isn't that fun?
Yes, that's fascinating. You would think that there would be a little bit more optimism. We read all the time the obituaries for both sides. We've read them a lot in recent decades, and invariably each side overreaches in some way. And so, but boy, it's fun to witness now. I've dealt with Pac-Man before, so I'm enjoying the fact that he's having a little bit of comeuppance.
Did you catch my Pac-Man got ghosted? Did you see what I did there? Did you see? No, I said so subtle.
Say that again.
One more time, Dan.
All right, John. So let's talk about the other side. That would be the victors. That would start with President Trump. And you, in typical libertarian fashion, don't want him to just do something. You prefer he just stand there.
Yeah, as always. Let's never forget that people are the source of prosperity. If we when they're left alone, when there's very little government activity, when there are very few shocks from government, people can prosper. And so I want Trump to recognize that what he's achieved is monumental. It's amazing, but successful presidencies are defined by a desire to do less. Whom does our side venerate to this day? Calvin Coolidge. He was a do-nothing president. Those are the kinds you want. Those are the people who oversee prosperity.
Although, I mean, you need to do something, arguably, and I would argue that, in terms of paring down the state, regulatory and otherwise, and this is your friend Elon Musk's chore, at least in part, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Remember I think the last conversation the three of us had was, oh yes, another commission. How will this work out? Color me skeptical that someone from outside government can shrink it too much. I would add that shrinking really doesn't achieve much. I would argue that shrinking can be the path to bigger government because it just frees up money for Congress to spend on other really bad ideas that grow and grow. So I do nothing. I guess what I would say is, yeah, sure, there are things that I'd like to see them do. I'd like to see them retreat on this IRS thing and take that money back. I don't want to have to be cowering before the IRS. There are tax cuts I'd like. There are things like that. But I just want people to recognize a government that can do all the things that we want can also do things that we don't want. And so do nothing would probably be ideal, even though we have things we think are worthy.
Well, that's sort of what I was arguing last week after the election. The real takeaway from the election is not inflation and the cost of living and the lack of job opportunities, the inaccessibility of affordable housing, and so forth. The real takeaway is that big government, all roads leading through government, is the problem. That big government is bad policy, and so if we replace their central planners with our central planners, it might be a little less bad, but we're still going to get bad. We need to think, about shrinking the scope and, to your point, expense of government across the board.
Absolutely. Central planning doesn't work. It doesn't change just because we're the central planners. And I think, and that's kind of the point of last week's column, is let's remember there was no financial crisis in 2008. There was government intervention. Republicans believe, because they're rhetorically free market, that when they intervene, they can intervene in the right way. Well, we saw what happened with George W. Bush. I think we have to go. Let's not forget, it was President Trump who was president when the lockdowns began. Republicans once again believe that when they do it, because we have these beliefs, we're capable. No, when you substitute the limited knowledge of government for that of the marketplace, invariably you get crisis. And I want to get this talked about. I want people to recognize that politicians are dangerous no matter the person in office. Rand Paul would be dangerous in office if he set about to do things.
Since you wrote a book about it, the spike in the value of risk assets since Trump's election, including cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Where are we in your estimation with this a crypto revolution that you wrote about?
My strong sense is that we're on the verge of suddenly it becoming very common. I still don't get why it made a difference whether it was Trump or Biden or Kamala Harris, and that's not a defense of the other side. It's just I kind of feel like crypto is going to be like Uber. Remember how suddenly it became a thing? It became a thing very quickly. The young discover something, and then gradually we all think, oh, wow, we can't live without it. I get the feeling that that's how it's going to be, is that all of a sudden more and more of us will use it in small ways. And there's nothing government can do about it once it becomes something that's a part of our daily lives. And my guess is that's where we're headed.
But I mean, what? I mean, it's just difficult to put your finger on. I understand. Otherwise, you'd position yourself accordingly. But I mean, what is the indicator, or what do you see bubbling below the surface that leads you to believe that we're nearing a tipping point for crypto, for Bitcoin in particular?
What makes me think this is the past? It's so easy to forget that when the 20th century dawned, or 21st century dawned, the vast majority of Americans still paid bills via U.S. mail and transacted through the mail. And nowadays, we don't even think about that. It's all internet. But see, at the time, I mean, if you owned Amazon stock in 2000, you're kind of ridiculed. Wait, you're buying that? If people had thought Amazon and online was the future, then Amazon wouldn't exist today because Walmart would have bought it long ago. There was still skepticism about it. What has me thinking it's the same thing is I'm reading all these books now, and not that means anything, but there's this whole other world going on beneath us of people talking about people transacting in crypto, of all these catchphrases that crypto types use. I just get the feeling, and I don't think it's going to be Bitcoin, I get the feeling that young people are starting to do this. And it's always the young people that sort of lead us in this new direction. I think if you'll have me on in 20 years, crypto will be the way the internet is now. Oh, yeah, well, might as well earn stable coins and things like this rather than the government money.
Why do you think it's not going to be Bitcoin?
Because Bitcoin just hit 80,000. And what does that tell you? What was it a year ago? I think it was about 15,000. So I say, hey, Amy and Dan, come remodel my bathroom. I'll pay you a Bitcoin now and a Bitcoin in 6 months when you're finished. You'd say, okay, well, which Bitcoin? The one that's 80,000, the one 50,000? You can't transact in that. And you can't, because by definition, the fact that it goes up and down, there's going to be losers in every transaction. Money works because it generally doesn't move around. That's why I support a much more stable dollar, because I think money is like the inch and foot. When it's really money, it's got inch, foot, minute, tablespoon, cup qualities.
Right, and so I mean, Bitcoin you see in the cryptocurrency space as solely a speculative asset. I mean, this is solely the province of speculators and not people that are serious about the blockchain technology and about cryptocurrency?
Yeah, I think it's yes, that's it. I think people believe that it's a hedge against something, but what is it a hedge against? They keep saying, well, it's like gold. Well, no, gold doesn't move. That's why it became the money for so long. Gold only moves insofar as the dollar rises or falls. That's a big difference. Gold is the constant, and that's why it's been used to define money. Bitcoin, the value changes all the time. Well, that makes it a speculation, but speculations aren't money. The minute you're talking about money, the minute the money is the story, that's sure a sign it's not money. You want money to be quiet. You want it to be. We don't talk about the inch or foot. You don't have me on to talk about the tablespoon. Of course you don't, because they're constants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. I mean, this has been an argument against Bitcoin, but maybe it's been overused to be an indictment of crypto generally, which it's not a store of value, so it's not a currency. But you're suggesting that there are cryptos that are coming up that perhaps people are less familiar with that will fill that role.
Yeah, because look throughout history, what's the constant with government money? They always devalue.
Devaluation.
People talk about central banks, and our side, the libertarian crowd, is so obsessed with central banks. Central banks began in 1668. Governments have been devaluing ever since they started issuing money. And so to me, the genius of crypto ultimately is that these are private entities providing for people what they've always wanted, money that they can trust, that they can store their wealth in and know that it's not going to go up and down, that they can just store it and use it to actually exchange for real wealth. And so I think that's where crypto is taking us. And if it does, I really do believe that more and more, the three of us should be talking, oh, wow, can you believe we used to transact in euros? No, now we'll just move crypto around the world.
All right. I look forward to our conversation in 20 years. John Tamny, editor of RealClearMarkets.com. He is also the author of The Money Confusion, How Illiteracy About Currencies and Inflation Sets the Stage for the Crypto Revolution. And maybe we'll have a few conversations in between those 20 years, too.
I hope so.
Yes, of course. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
So the body knows that it needs to heal itself, but it doesn't know how to concentrate it and target it into just one area. So that's where we come in.
By we, Dr. Ashley